Let me see. When my son was about 1.5, I had gone on a retreat with my office, and my mother kept him. And when I got back, she told me that my nephew and her had noticed that he wasn't talking. So I didn't really pay it that much attention, and then later on, she started noticing it because she was a teacher's aide, and most of the children that she worked with in the classroom were the ones that were slower or were having some difficulty. So she noticed that some of the behaviors that he had was like some of the children she had seen. She didn't know what it was, but she knew that it wasn't common. It was some type of difficulty. So then I put him in nursery school because the babysitter that he was going to got another job, and the director of the center told me that he didn't talk all day. And he was 2 then. He didn't talk. She said he didn't say a word all day. So she had taken a development sheet and checked off where she thought that he was, and she gave it to me. I guess the way she did it, I guess, was not to offend me or alarm me, but to kind of let me look at the age range of his development and see if I had noticed it. And I pretty much noticed the same thing that she did. So she told me she was going to give me a phone number to call, and it was early intervention. So I called, and we had him tested, and they said he had a 50% speech delay. But they didn't call it autism. They just said he had a 50% speech delay. So he was eligible for an early intervention program. He went to Easter Seals. When I got there, someone said, I think he has autism. So then I took him to a neurologist, and when Dion came in the room, I guess his behavior, and we had done a EEG. We did what they call an overnight study. We did an EEG where he stayed overnight, and he looked at his EEG and said he has autism. And he asked me, I said, really? I said, well, nobody's ever told me that. And he was 3 years old then, and he said, well, what have they been telling you? And I don't remember now. I think they say global delays or something. And whatever the term was that they had told me, he told me that was an occupational therapy term. That wasn't a diagnosis. So he said he has autism. He said, I have just been part of a research project. And when I looked at and we were looking at the EEGs of the individuals that had autism, he said his is like theirs. That's how he was diagnosed.
I was diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic. And then they said I had several different kinds of personality disorders. And I was locked up in the hospital in South Carolina and New York. I came here, and then they said, oh, you have bipolar disease, and you're schizoaffective, and I don't even know what that means. So they put me on a bunch of medication, and it didn't get better. And I went back to the counselor right down there at 33 K Street. And he said, you don't have any of that. You have Asperger's syndrome.
Now,
says, what is that?
Okay.
He says, that's autism. but it's the light form of autism. I said, light how? He said, you don't understand things. You have to find out if something's funny or not. You can't hold a job. You're still going to stay on disability. I'm on disability. But I'm off the medication.
I was diagnosed with Asperger. I was taking the test. I have high functioning autism.
And where were you taking the test?
I was taking the test in when I was took the test when I was psychological testing when I was in Doors in Maryland, and they found out that I had have Asperger's disorder, which is high functioning. And the previous test when I was in Florida, I had diagnosed with autism. I was diagnosed when I was about 1.5 years old.
I quit my job because things just became so stressful. This particular year, I always had difficulty getting child care for him in the summer because if I told them he had autism, they wouldn't take him. So not even seeing him, but just that word, they wouldn't take him. So it was getting close to the time for him to get out of school. This was in 2000. And I didn't have a placement for him, and I was going to get someone to come in, and when she came to my house, he started crying like he was afraid of her. She worked at the school, so I know she had probably been doing something to him, hitting him or something, because he was afraid. So I definitely wasn't going to allow her to take care of him. So I just went to work and told them I'm quitting. It was the day before my birthday. Federal government took my retirement money. I lost my retirement. I felt like I was going to have a nervous breakdown. I was just so stressed with and then at that time, he wasn't making a lot of progress, so that was bothersome. So I was just really, really stressed, and I needed to just take a break from working. And I just needed to be home with him for a while, so I took a break for a year. I just drew my retirement money and stayed home for a year. Then a friend of mine who also has a child who has autism, he's a little older, she told me, she said, when you go back to work, you should try to get into the disability field. She said, because you will, make a lot of contacts, you'll find out what's going on in the, in the disability world. You'll, and it should be easier for you working because people will be more understanding.
Thought about what bothers me about the whole situation. The biggest of the situation is that I know she's being abused and mistreated. This I know. At first I thought it was just the emptiness thing going on, and definitely that's part of what's going on. Because I'm used to having such a close relationship with my 32-year-old daughter. And I do believe that even at 32, she should have the option of coming to see me whenever she gets good and darn ready to. She does not have that option. She does not have that option to be as physically active as she has been. This is a 5K, 10K racer. She's won several awards. I have some of them here. I want to make sure she has that life that she had prior to going into this placement.